Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review even the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-host Jeff Moore, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Moore, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are reviewing Final Cut, which some of you might recognize as something else, but we'll get to that in a second. All right. Before we get into it, let me introduce the crew, starting off with the one and only Jeff Moore.
Hi.
What? I was like, are you okay?
I am excellently wretched.
He was waiting for a cue that I dropped. All right. Also joining us this week is Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm fabulous.
Is that a Mickey Mouse pumpkin jacket you have?
Yeah. See? Yep.
Check that out.
And then see candies and
it's like
it's a little Dracula
creamsicle with black frosting.
Oh, yum! That sounds good.
It does.
Does it?
Actually, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not hungry.
Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
And that's action. I'm ready to go.
Final Cut. All right.
Ready to go.
We are here to review the movie Final Cut. We are going to start off giving you our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler-free. How you doing, Christopher?
I know. Just focus on me.
Then we'll dive into a discussion. We'll get into some spoilers, but well, I guess this movie kind of has a major spoiler. But then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. And of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but any reviews that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, and share with a friend buttons, because each click will help us find another horror fan just like you. Yay!
Yay!
Before we get going, we just want to remind everybody we are celebrating 10 years of podcasting with H&R Gruesome Magazine and Decades of Horror. Check out all those podcasts and have fun, because there's 10 years of content. Oh man. Let's just dive into things, shall we? Let's get into the card and get things going. All right, Final Cut from Kino Lorber here in the States, available in theaters July 14th, 2023. Synopsis is: things go badly for a small film crew shooting a low-budget zombie movie when they are attacked by, gasp, real zombies. There should be an extra E in there, not an A. But written and directed by Michael Hazenakovikas. Sorry, Michael. He also wrote the story based on the original story by, and I'm not even going to try. But this is based on a low-budget film, very low budget, One Cut of the Dead, which made a pretty strong impression a few years back. We reviewed it on H&R, and this is the French remake. So that will be interesting to see how that
more of a reimagining, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's.
We'll discuss that in the discussion. Let's find out what our initial thoughts were. We're going to start off with the one and only Christopher G. Moore.
Well, if you listen to our review of One Cut of the Dead, you know I really love that film. And as a filmmaker, it hit all the right spots for me. It was just a really wonderful film that was created on an indie budget. and had a lot of, you could see the love for how crews have to come together to make things work, how issues will happen in the middle of filmmaking and you have to make it work. And so I think that's what made that film so special. And I think that film felt like more lightning in the bottle, and this is more just like static electricity in the bottle. I think it's trying to recapture that, and it's trying to maybe recapture that for a whole new audience, because I'm sure a lot of people may not watch, Final Cut of the, One Cut of the Dead, because being another language. And so I guess maybe French audiences like, well, we want to see our own version of it. And then this is sort of like, and the way it kind of makes it out, it's almost like that One Cut of the Dead does exist, and this is sort of like the same people who produced that are sort of producing this. And I think they do try to put some kind of spins on it, especially with it sort of them having to adhere to stuff before and stuff based on the Japanese version, and they have a few additions that are a little bit different because there's a musician part that I thought was really actually made me laugh a lot. But I don't know, it there were times where it felt like, like when your local theater production does a production of something that and it's not the same as seeing it on Broadway, and this felt like that. And I mean, but I will say it's still interesting, it's still watchable, but it just felt like it didn't feel like the original. And I think if anything, I kind of wish that maybe they'd gone a different direction or took a lot more chances in doing something much different. Because with it being sort of like, because there's things that are almost like shot for shot sort of similar.
Yeah.
And there's variations of it. But I like the characters. I think all the actors are great. I mean, the director, he wrote and directed The Artist, which was up for Academy Award several years ago. So, and he's definitely known for comedy because he did these there's these French almost James Bond parodies. I think OSS 117 that he's done in the past, and so he does have a love for comedy, but I don't know. This kind of fell off, and maybe it's because I'm sure maybe if you go into this new and you've never seen the original, maybe it might hit you better because you know the gimmick, which we won't spoil here, but we know the kind of gimmick of that story and how it's structured, which is, I know for most people when I watched, I was like, what is going on? The first 30 minutes, like, what is going on here? What is happening? And then it's like, oh, that's brilliant. And then it's sort of like it adds so much. The last 75% adds so much to what you've seen. So I don't know. I think they gave it a good try, but it just feels it doesn't feel the same as the original. So it just makes me kind of want to go back and watch the original. But I did get feels from it. I think the ending, I still get the feels of the ending because I think as somebody who, if I was a parent and had a kid and the kid had an interest in filmmaking and stuff, I would love to have that kind of connection. So there's a beautiful family part of it that you see. But I don't know. It felt more real in the first one. You know what I mean? Even though it was goofy.
Yes, it's grittier or something.
Yeah, and this one just this is a bigger budget recapture of that, and you could sort of see that. And it doesn't feel the same. So it doesn't have that same feeling, but I think it's I'd say it's watchable, but it's still entertaining in points. I mean, there's parts that still entertain me, and mainly because of the parts where they try to do something different with it. So that's my impression.
All right, Jeff Morser, what was your first impression of Final Cut?
Well, I might have to go back and watch One Cut of the Dead because I felt like this was sort of a spoof of that it was like, and literally for the first 2/3, 3/4 of the film, I'm thinking, oh my God. In fact, I texted Doc. I was like, wow, this is a slog. The first half hour was like you see their movie and there's so many things wrong with it. And I guess I don't remember that from One Cut of the Dead. And so when you get, and then the whole part in the middle, you kind of need to know to explain the things that.
Jeff got his final cut right there and then. All right. Well, hopefully he'll come back.
Okay.
Crystal, how you doing? What was your first impression of Final Cut?
Okay, so if I feel like more people will like this. I don't know. I don't know if seeing it when you've seen One Cut of the Dead is better or worse for this. Okay, because I feel like the beginning of this one, this final cut, was harder to get into and not
Yeah.
as funny as One Cut of the Dead. You know, like,
Yeah.
God, it's hard to explain without being a little spoilery. But once you find out in this version, I think it's very funny. I think the middle part is a little slow and sluggish, but I laughed quite a bit. I mean, it's funny that it's funny that they all have Asian names and stuff. Like, it's some of it is ridiculous. You know, I had a few laughs. I love the concept of this, and I feel and completely agree with Christopher that this doesn't feel as gritty and real. And God, so I keep one cut of the dead, final cut, one cut of the dead. It's like bleh. It doesn't feel as it doesn't feel as like I cared as much. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was funny. I mean, and when you if you haven't seen when you find out what's going on, I think it makes it extra funny.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to
we'll get to that.
think of this. Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't know what's happening or what's going on, when you do find out, that's where the payoff comes. I think people are going to have a really hard time getting through. If you haven't seen it, the one, you're going to have a hard time, I think, getting through the first 30-ish minutes or so of this film. And that's the only problem. It just doesn't. At first, I was watching it and I was like, is this the French version of British comedy? Is it just something? I get it. It's funny, but it's not funny, you know, if that makes sense. I'm having a hard time describing what my feelings I'm having on this film. I do think that, oh God, the acting is great. I mean, it's bad and great, which it's meant to be bad and great. So, you know, it is what it is there. This one does seem more absurd, for sure. But I enjoyed it. I mean, did it need to be made? No. But, I mean, I laughed out loud at a few points, for sure. So, it entertained me overall. Yeah. It's not as good as the original, but I think everyone will agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no.
Okay. So there's a lot of things going on with this movie that need to be said. One, I think it does give the idea, the concept, more exposure. You know, with the, you know, in a different part of the world, and I like that. I like that, you know, the originators of the writers are credited, and at least one actor is repeating. So there is some interest there, and I think it proves that this original idea, this concept, actually works. It's a brilliant concept. So I enjoyed that. And what the problem is I'm kind of in Christopher's boat here. I love the original so much that I'm stuck comparing it. And the biggest comparison was that I really, really loved the characters in the original, right? I really got into who they were and what they, you know, each one was far more unique for some reason. And I didn't have the same feeling with this group of characters. I really didn't get into the dynamics and the relationships as much. I mean, because the story itself is told just as well, you know, it's filmed just as, if not better. You know, because of the budget and everything. But something doesn't gel. Something doesn't come together quite as well. Having said that, I still enjoyed the hell out of this. This is a fun story. It is it does require participation from the audience, and what I mean by that is, you have to give the first third of this movie a chance to live. And when credits roll 30 minutes into it, I'm just going to say this is a little bit of a spoiler, but when credits roll 30 minutes into it, don't walk away. Don't walk away. Don't walk away, because there's more to be seen. And we'll get into that here in a minute. But in the end, I enjoyed it. And I think it sits beside the original well enough to do so. It doesn't. It's not offensive. A lot of times, sometimes, well, not a lot of times, but sometimes a foreign remake of a film can just kind of miss the point, right? It can totally say, "Oh, that was a big hit. Let's make one," and it go, they kind of shit all over it. This one doesn't. It respects it. It handles it really well. And in that case, I have to give this movie some props and love. I just wish I had enjoyed it a little bit more.
Well, and I actually looked it up. The One Cut of the Dead, transferring the Japanese currency to American money, only cost $25,000. This film cost over $4 million.
What?
So
that's because they had.
And so you can see $4 million does not make it a million times better. You know what I mean?
No.
And I think what it comes down to is the passion. It was a lot of unknown actors that were in that One Cut of the Dead film.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a lot of and you have an Academy nominated winning filmmaker trying to recapture that, and it kind of feels, it's sort of like, it's sort of like when you have like a prop and they make a plastic version of it, and you have like the real version of it. The real version is always going to look better than the plastic version, and and so I think that's granted, they did try to do a few things, and I think first of all, it's not supposed to be a remake of it, but I guess it's sort of a remake within their realm, I guess, to some degree, because you have the one of the people that was from the original that was trying to make it, and they present this, and there's a scene where he's actually watching One Cut of the Dead on his computer. So they are kind of remaking something that had been done in Japan. So you have that.
Well,
so
that's what they mention it. They say
And so
this was super successful. So they literally are like they are working together.
And they're working on the same script.
Well, and I think that's what also can cause confusion, because even I was like, why are they using Japanese names? And then so again, you have that extra confusion because like the first like One Cut of the Dead, you had that confusion, like, wait a minute, what is going on? And then I was like, is this in the translation from French? Is this a bad translation from French or something?
Honestly, what I thought is, you never know. You never know what people's ethnicity is, for sure. I mean, but people are so mixed and stuff.
Yeah, but I think some of the people were just very white. So I don't think,
but still,
but when everybody,
never know for sure.
But when everybody's name is Japanese, that's I can only, my imagination.
He actually mentioned it too.
So far, yeah. So I think things like that, and I think, I just wish I wish they'd kind of had the ability. I mean, even if they did some, like it is, if they try to do something different, But I think the thing that made me laugh the most is the new additions, like the music guy.
Oh yeah, I don't know what we're doing anymore.
Well, no, I think what made me laugh is just the meta nature of it, because there's one part where he's like stressing out, and there's this really intense music, and he's like, "Can you stop that?" The guy's he's just testing music in the background, and he's like, "Oh, that," and then he does it a second time. This is a really dramatic part, and you think it's just part of the score, but it's just kind of playing around with it. And that made me laugh. It made me laugh out loud twice. So I think things like that, where they kind of tried something a little bit different. I mean, a lot of the characters are basically the same type of characters as before. We have the guy who gets all shitty when if he drinks hard water, and you have
that is so funny though. Okay, like.
I mean, they did make that. I'm not sure if
I sent an email. Bitch, no one reads their emails, okay? No one reads their emails anymore.
Yeah. Although as a filmmaker, that there's parts that gave me PTSD. It's like, I would hate to have somebody working on my set who's like, I read your email, or I'm sorry, I'll look at it later, and they don't do anything. So, but yeah, I mean, they have all the different which I kind of makes me kind of want to watch the original, because I'm wondering if what parts they kind of like got away from the story. But I think definitely the part where you have the people coming in saying you have to make it this way, and they're like, that's not going the way we wanted it to. And but also I'm not sure if they showed parts of it, but there's one part of them which, again, I hate to think that I forgot about it, but the part where towards the end where the blood girl is just she's got like a tube in her mouth, and she's got a scoop in one hand, and she's like, and I was like, because as somebody who's worked on sets and had to put blood and stuff, that made me laugh, because sometimes you just have to use whatever you're using, and the effect works. It works. But just knowing the magic behind the illusion and how goofy it is just makes it very funny. So things like that, I think for those people who don't know how movies are made, you don't know how these practical effects are created on set, it is kind of funny when you pull that veil and you show the wizard behind it all, and how it's just people throwing stuff left and right and just throwing blood on you and squirting blood in your face and stuff. So yeah, so I think all the actors did an okay job, I think, with their characters and stuff. But again, it just almost felt, I don't know, it felt different. You know, it's like when you get a generic brand of your favorite muffin and it doesn't taste the same.
I think people who haven't seen the first one, but will stick through the first bit of this movie, will really enjoy. I think you should, if I were to recommend this to anyone, which I would, because I still find it completely acceptable, I would recommend watching this one first and then watching.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because
I think the other way around, I don't think that.
I kind of feel that kind of craps on the specialness of the original, because then it kind of takes away the joy and the surprise of the original, in my opinion.
Well, then maybe that's why this one you didn't like this one as much, because you already knew it was coming, you know?
Probably, but I think looking at it, it's a glossy version of the original.
It is.
I think that what makes the original so great is because it feels guerrilla filmmaking. It feels indie. This does not feel indie. This feels like it feels a little too glossy for what they're doing, and I think, you know, and having $4 million kind of helps with that.
So like the pentagram or the pentagram scene, right, from above. I wonder if they didn't even just post add the shaking, because did you see the shaking? It didn't feel like natural camera shaking. Like it was like, I'm just curious. Sorry. That's just a silly thing to point out, but I was like, wow, the camera shake there is odd. It felt too structured. Okay, whatever. Well, that's a silly thing to even talk about. It's just. It's
well, I think there's other.
I think a lot of the films did. A lot of
one of it. I think that's. And again, I think that's. It's sort of like when people try to remake found footage type films, you know, and it feels too perfect.
Yeah.
In trying to recreate that, you know, it's almost like when people they try to create that VHS effect by throwing filters on it instead of actually filming it using that type of camera. And I think that's the one thing that kind of separates that. It's like that film that comes with your television. You keep that film on instead of taking it off before you watch your television. It feels like there's a barrier between, you know, to what you're watching. So it kind of. There's moments it kind of sucked me out of it, because it's like, this feels like people trying to make it seem like they're filming it. And I feel like One Cut of the Dead feels like a real people trying to film something. You know what I mean? And I think them trying to recreate that feels recreated. You know, it feels like something you'd see on like,
it almost feels like an imitation.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like one of those ghost shows where they try to recreate things and it looks fake. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to. I'm not really crapping on it. I just feels like I feel like the glossy nature of it kind of takes away the specialness of that the original had. And I think I think in some ways I like the characters a whole lot more in the original than this. I mean, still there's funny elements of it, because I'm not sure, was the girl, was she a social media influencer in the original?
I don't think so. But I want to say that, you know, before we get into our scores and such, is that for those that are listening, if you haven't watched either film, there's an interesting structure to this, that basically you have a 90-minute film that is basically shot in three 30-minute sections, right?
Yeah.
And you get the movie up front, you get the story behind it, and then you get the making of it. And that structure is so successful. I mean, it's just a great structure. It's so different than anything else. And even doing it the second time for this, it still held that uniqueness to it. And
well, it's like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern type stuff, you know, to where you know how like the Shakespearean plays happen, but then you have these people behind the scenes making all the machinations happen, and that adds a whole new level to it that you didn't think of before, that like things that you thought were just like what's wrong with the camera or these mistakes, it informs those mistakes. And I think that's what made the original that's what great.
Makes it special.
Yeah.
So Jeff, welcome back. Do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I was just going to say it was for me, it was a slog until the last 30 minutes. And then I thought it was great. Yep. I was laughing a lot. So that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, let's get into our score, 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And I'm going to reverse things because with Jeff falling out, so Jeff, you can listen to other people first. Crystal, your score, your favorite scene.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Yeah, okay. 3.5.
Fair.
And oh God, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot I like. I don't know why I'm having a hard time with this one. Actually, I think the actress did a really good job. Okay, when they're filming, and you see the behind the scenes, and all the stuff falls over the little bridge, and she turns, and she's like, ah! When it's just focused on her face, you know. I think it felt that. I think the acting was really good on that part. Like it felt like she really was reacting to the sound, and then screaming about that, and then it's the part where it's just focused on her face and dash or bang or sorry. Bang.
It was bang.
Bang is getting got, but he's not really getting got, you know, because you just think he's getting got. Yeah.
And it takes a long time for him to get got.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. Yeah. All right. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Christopher G. Moore, your score and favorite scene.
I'll give this a 3. I mean, it's okay. And it has its moments, but it's like eating, you know, off-brand chocolate. Doesn't taste the same as the regular. I think me and my food. But anyway,
it's like he's going for the Aldi brand.
Yeah. It's like the Aldi brand is. It's better for you, but it doesn't taste the same. So I'd rather have that $25,000 version as opposed to the 4 million version. As for favorite scene, I'm just gonna have to. I was thoroughly entertained by the music bit, the musician guy, because I don't know. Yeah. I think that more than anything, I kind of wish they had more moments like that. They were kind of, because it was just a very meta type moment. Because I think, first of all, the guy was making some crappy music throughout.
It was funny,
to be honest. But there's that one moment, it just felt like the natural music that would play when every time he's having a breakdown, and he's like, "Can you stop that?" And you find out it's just music he's playing. Yeah, and it just I guffawed twice because of those bits. I kind of wish they had more of that, but yeah, I'll have to say that at least the first time it happens was very surprising and made me laugh.
Excellent. Jeff! What is...
Yeah, so just to say again, I mean, the slog you had to go through to get to the last part for it to mean something, but the first part, I was like, I didn't know what the hell was it really going to be this bad? And then you see the development, and then you see why it's that bad, and I thought it was hilarious. And so I'm giving it a 3.5 just for the last part. I mean,
there you go, straight up.
I wish the first part was more entertaining, but and favorite scene, I could pick 2 of them, but I'm taking the drunk zombie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because it explains so much about the first time through.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going on? And
the reason why he's weird,
the
so
director's
weird.
holding his arm and slapping him up, and when he pukes, it's real puke, you know. The other one is like, oh, it's not real. It's fake. It's fake. Don't worry. So anyway, I had fun with that. Most of the behind the scenes shot at the end I thought was hilarious. I was cracking up.
Yeah, and the ending still holds. You know, the building the pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well, because I think I can't remember what I gave the original. It was higher. It was like one of my favorite movies of the year. My favorite scene. It's still, there's much you can choose. Like Christopher mentioned a scene about the girls blowing the blood through the tube and throwing it over her shoulder. You could do that. There's just all kinds of stuff. The one girl jumping up when she comes to and then realizing that she has to get back down. It's just so funny. But what I really liked was a little bit more subtle, is that when you're watching the first 30 minutes, there's this one big long scene where they're just like taking forever. And there's this guy there's just this guy sitting at the door, and he just sits there for the entire thing. People come in and out, and he's just like, and it's just like, what is going on? Is that like, is that like the pants guy from just, from Mandalorian, from, what I mean, or whatever that was? It was just so funny. And then when you find out what was going on with it later, it's pretty damn hilarious. It parodies. I mean, yeah, I don't know if it's a parody or it's just like a loving homage to how to make horror films, because it's not really a horror movie, but yet it is very much about horror movies.
Yeah.
Right?
I love the how are you? Are you okay?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Are you okay?
Just trying to lengthen that out.
Then,
I'm okay.
5 minutes later, it's like,
you okay?
What scene are they on now? Oh, they're still on. You're okay.
They're on a loop.
They're in a loop, yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. All right, so there you go. That's our review of Final Cut. We'd love to hear what you think of it. It's out in theaters on the 14th, and I imagine it'll be streaming in VOD shortly. So check it out and let us know what you think. Man, I'd love to hear what people think of this movie. I just wanted to stress, give it the first 30 minutes.
Yes.
Don't turn it off. Don't
that.
Go, wait, because it pays off, and this movie pays off just as well in that respect. So yay. Christopher, Jeff, Crystal, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Always fun.
All right, let's get out of here. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. That's another movie coming later. All right, let's get out of here. Bye.
Gruesome Magazine.